All right, welcome to the Close Call. I'm your host, Brian Gregory. I've got my co host, Luke Close, with me here as well, hence the name, The Close Call. You already know what it is. Um, we've got what they like to call a jam packed show here today. We're going to talk about one of the hottest teams in college basketball right now, the St. John's Red Storm. I think they're starting to peak at the right time. Excuse me, they're starting to peak at the right time, and it's all about playing your best basketball in February and in March. I think they're doing that. We're going to reveal our Big 12 rankings. Yes, the best conference in college basketball. No ifs, ands, or buts about the Big 12. And then, of course, we've got a great slate of games this weekend. So we've got our predictions: Duke, Clemson, Florida, Kentucky, Arizona, Texas Tech, and Iowa State and Kansas. Yes, all those games are happening this weekend, and we're going to get into them. So first things first, let's talk about St. John's because they just knocked off number 3 UConn last week and then had another win against Xavier this past Monday. And they're playing Providence on Saturday. And I'm liking their trajectory right now, but what do you have to say about the Red Storm?
Okay. So I'm actually gonna let you go first here, because I have my own thoughts on St. John's. But I will
Okay.
say that win against UConn was just an incredible win. They made the plays when it mattered. Dylan Darling, who I've been pretty negative on all year, has really seemed to step up for St. John's, and they got Rick Pitino. So yeah, and I do like their chances against Providence as well. Providence is just about to run Kim English out of town if he doesn't get fired. So, but I'm going to let you set the stage for St. John's because I have a feeling we might have some conflicting opinions here.
Yeah, Providence is like the Kansas State of the Big East right now. Like the clock is, I don't know if you saw that video this morning, but the clock
Oh
is ticking.
yeah, yeah. Good lord, yeah. Jerome Tang that program's a mess. They will not be in my top 8. Spoilers.
Yeah, for anybody out there that was wondering, they're not in mine either. So now let's see. Let's talk about St. John's here for a second. So they've won 12 of their last 13. All right, they're absolutely cooking right now. What I like about them is it's the same thing as last year. They're very reliant on defense. The rotations on defense, it's very deep. Okay, so they can hit you with a lot of different things, and they prioritize really going one game at a time here. Now I know they had kind of a slow start this year, but here's my comparison that I was teasing at the beginning of the show. And so teams like St. John's and Alabama, right? I think they have a ceiling, yes. I want to preface here with this segment. I'm not at all saying that St. John's is going to go to the Final Four or anything like that. I think they have a ceiling, and I think the ceiling is Elite Eight at best. All right, because they do have their flaws. They're not as high powered offensively. They're not as fast paced as some of these other teams that are in Tier 1. They're absolutely a Tier 2 team. But there's something to be said about these teams like St. John's, like Alabama, who start the season with a lot of really challenging opponents. It's kind of like building a fire in upstate New York, and that's how we heat our homes up there. Yes, or I know we're barbarians, but that's how we heat our homes is with firewood and fireplaces, and you got to bring in a cord of wood every year, sometimes two. That's how the wild things like myself survive up there. You bring in wet firewood. That's like those tier 1 teams, right? You put that in the fireplace, and it smokes. It struggles to really ignite, and before you know it, the fire's out. And you just got charcoal in there. But you put some newspaper in there. You know, you put a little bit of maybe charcoal fluid in there, get it going, get some oxygen in there. It lights and it sustains. And that's the stretch that your Alabamas, your St. John's are on right now. And by no means, UConn is not an easy opponent by any means. But you're looking at Providence. You're looking at Xavier. These are chances for St. John's to really get their confidence going, just like Alabama recently. You know, you saw Texas A&M, who I'm not super high on by any means either. You just saw Ole Miss. All right, like it's getting a little bit more manageable for the Tide. You know, it's not Illinois and Purdue like we were seeing, just getting haymaker left and right, and it gives your team some breathing space, some room to grow, to improve, to gain some confidence, some moxie. Because you need that space in order to build that confidence in your team. I think that St. John's is getting that right now. So I think that this is a team with a lot of potential down the stretch here, just because they're on a scheduled stretch where they can build confidence, find identity, find who they are as a team. And of course, Zuby Ejiofor. I always struggle to pronounce his name. Ejiofor. Got that right. He's been their prominent player on offense. He's been cooking recently too. And St. John's will always have a defensive identity, and it's all coming into shape right now. So I like what I'm seeing at St. John's, but of course I also do want to preface I think there's a ceiling as well.
Yeah, so I'll put it this way: St. John's is probably one of the hottest teams in the country right now. They going from unranked to being in the top 20. I think they were maybe the biggest riser in the AP poll last week. Obviously, that win over UConn helps a lot. For me, I have a lot of distrust in St. John's, and I'm gonna just lay it out right now. For one, I think that the Big East is a 3-bid league. I think that you have UConn, you have St. John's, and then Seton Hall. And after that, I don't know if there's another team that really is. I could be missing somebody, but I don't know if there's a team that really is up to par. Obviously, Creighton can make a run. They're always dangerous. They haven't missed a tournament in I think 7 years, 8 years. But besides the Big East being a weak league, I think that that St. John's. What scares me about St. John's, especially going into March, is one, they turn the ball over, and their primary players are all forwards that like to handle the ball. Dylan Darling, like I mentioned, if he continues on the trajectory he's on for the rest of the year, obviously changes a lot for St. John's. And they're not a great outside shooting team. Isaiah Sellers, he can shoot the ball. Occasionally you can get one from Zuby. Occasionally you can get one from Hopkins. Occasionally Ian Jackson will give you 3 or 4. But I just don't have a lot of faith in their outside shot moving forward, and that's something that scares me in March because you're going to need to make shots, and I think that is a prime candidate for an upset. And then the third thing, which is my biggest thing, is that they can struggle from the free throw line a lot, and when they're playing a lot of these teams like the Xaviers, it almost cost them against Xavier. The Providences, it might not cost them there. But the Marquettes, it might not cost them there. But when you start to get down the line and you look into March and you're looking at these teams like you look at if they played a team with a high-powered offense like Alabama, for example, their bread and butter would be pounding the ball in the paint, getting fouled, going to the line. Well, if they get to the line 30 times and they only make 20 of them, that's 10 points they've left on the board. You can't leave 10 points on the board against teams like Alabama. Even a team like BYU that also likes to get to the line, they make their free throws. So for me, that's a couple big red flags for St. John's. I'm not saying that by any means. I'm not trying to disrespect St. John's at all. I'm just saying that the trust factor for me moving deep into March is not there. Obviously, if Dylan Darling is the kind of the general, the Rick Pitino general that he likes to have, the Peyton Sivas, the Russ Smiths, like if he turns into one of those, then the trajectory for St. John's completely changes. And he was quite literally the reason why they beat UConn. Those big shots towards the end of the games, he was knocking down free throws. But even Darling can struggle from the line sometimes. And so for me, that's where I look at St. John's and I go, can I put my full faith in St. John's to move them far into my bracket? Or when I'm making my bracket, is this a team that I might potentially have upset in the round of 64 or round of 32? And right now I'm leaning towards the latter. So, but once again, hottest team. I think they're the hottest team in the country, and they have some really nice wins recently. And they've been battle tested, like you said. So I think that there's a lot of potential for the St. John's team. I just don't know where I'm at with them right now.
That was very well said. I'll give you credit for that. I mean, perimeter shooting was an issue for St. John's last year.
Yeah.
Then it continues to be an issue this year. That's what ultimately led to their loss against Arkansas in the second round. So it's also if they face a team like that, like not only is it against a fast-paced tempo team like Alabama, like BYU, who are like your SGA teams that like to get to the charity stripe and just run up the score. But I also worry about them if they go up against a big-bodied team,
right?
Hammer rebounds.
Yeah,
that scares me as well. So
that's where they make their bread and butter, that pressure and those offensive rebounds.
Oh, absolutely. That was the recipe for success last year and this year as well. So I love what they're doing right now. I think that they're in a conference and they're on a stretch where they can build some confidence down the line
Absolutely.
here. But I am with you that as far as like I think they'll be a highly touted team in March. Like I could see them snatching up a 3, maybe even a 2 seed by
Yeah,
by that time, depending on how they perform in the Big East championship. But ultimately we always say it always depends on the region. They get into an easier region with matchups that favor them, maybe they can go to the Elite Eight. But if they get into a region with your Alabamas or your BYU's, just those nightmare teams, hell, even a Tennessee, it's going to crash the boards against them.
yeah.
That's what scares me about St. John's. Or like seeing somebody like Purdue in their bracket, like good lord.
Yeah, and I think that the most likely seed for St. John's would be a 4. Just based off of their quad one opportunities coming up. They don't have a lot of them, and I do think they're due to drop a game. But they could easily work their way up to the 3 line. I think the 2 line's a little bit of a stretch because I don't think they have the non-conference wins to. I mean, they're not in the non-conference. They lost to Auburn in the non-conference, who's now squarely on the bubble. Alabama. So I don't think that a lot of these they've taken full advantage of their quad one opportunities. So I could see them at a 4 or 5 seed, and I feel like that's a dangerous spot for them.
Yeah, because especially they get matched up with one of those mid majors, right? You know,
Yeah,
you're one of those non-power four schools that just wreak havoc in the
yeah.
first round. That's not an ideal spot for the Red Storm to get into. So it'll be interesting to see what unfolds for them down the stretch here. But let's talk about the best conference in college basketball right now, the Big 12. I'm going to share my rankings first because I'm curious to see how they compare to yours. So
Let's do it.
I would imagine that we have the same number one. I have Arizona number one, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to make sure that
You-
I think they're the most complete team in the Big 12. I think they play at a really fast pace. They score at a high rate that a lot of these teams are going to struggle to keep up with. I have Houston at number two.
I also have Houston at number 2.
All right, I think they play a really physical brand of basketball still. Like they're a bruiser. If there's any team that I don't want to see in the Final Four, it's them, for reasons that we saw last year. I'm worried about seeing that again this year.
And Kingston Fleming is the maybe the I mean it's hard to say who the best freshman guard is this year. There's so many of them, but he is an elite floor general that can also create his own shot.
Oh yeah, and it's terrifying to see, like combining
And
that with a clamp down defense team too.
the team and a lot of those guys coming back off of that heartbreaking national championship loss, they it stings.
This shit is personal. Every single game I watch Houston play. Like I saw a bit of their Utah game the other night, and I'm like, these guys are just taking the shit personal this year. Like you can tell that at that Florida game just drives them, and their goal is one game at a time here, but ultimately getting back to the Final Four and getting to that game and hoisting a trophy. And I think that there's two teams in the Big 12 that are capable of winning it all, and it's your top two. The others I have questions about.
Yeah,
Number three, I have Kansas.
we differ there.
I was gonna say you're not as high on Kansas as I am. I think Kansas is hot, but I have my questions about them just because of Darren Peterson's availability. I just don't really know what's going on there. And he's a hot and cold guy. So sometimes he's red hot, and other times I just don't think he's fully reliable. And when that's your star, and he's on and off like that, it's tough to really build that chemistry with the rest of the guys on your team. So that's why I don't have Kansas in the top two. I have Tech at 4. I think that they're a really good balanced basketball team. Okay, and I'm excited to see how they match up with Arizona this weekend. I don't have a great feeling about that for the Red Raiders, but I think that this is a good balanced basketball team that has a high ceiling. At number 5, I have Iowa State. I was flirting with them at 4 or even number 3. That 3 through 5, I was back and forth with all different orders. And I kind of feel like shit for having Iowa State at number 5. But this is a really good basketball team, especially at home. When they get cooking with scoring, it's hard to keep up with the Cyclones. At 6, I have UCF. They have 2 of the best wins in the conference right now. I mean, they beat Kansas, they beat Texas Tech. I think UCF can be a real problem in March Madness. I'm just going to say that, especially if they get in a good region. I think they could be a real problem. Number 7, BYU, the Bonsa, Saunders. Love that combo, but I think that there's just some weaknesses there. And then Oklahoma State is who I have at number 8.
Okay. So obviously our first 2 are the top 2, and I actually have written on my sheet gap. I think that
Great.
the gap there is a pretty wide margin, enough so to separate them. At 3, I actually have Iowa State. And my reasoning for that is I would take Milan Momcilovic in a 3-point contest against anybody. And I mean, you got Lipsy, you got Josh Jefferson, and Josh Jefferson. I cannot speak enough volumes about how his game has evolved this year. He was a decent 3-point shooter last year. He is a legitimate threat from 3-point range this year. And also, I think the age factor goes into Iowa State a little bit here. I think that them being an older, more experienced team sets up really well for them going into postseason play and into March Madness. For at 4, I have a tie between Kansas and Texas Tech. I don't think there's enough notion there to separate one or the other. I think I think both teams are really good at home, and I think that they're built pretty similarly. Where it's kind of you've got Badunga and you got Peterson. Peterson, is the Peterson saga. Something new pops up every day, like you mentioned it perfectly. Inconsistency just builds around the team as well. I mean, what are they going to do when they have to play a game on a day's rest? Is Peterson going to play? Is he not? He's already on a minutes restriction. They play every 3 days. So for me, there's a lot of question marks there. For Texas Tech, outside of Christian Anderson and JT Toppin, obviously you've got a couple other guys that can that can shoot the 3 ball well, but they're all. I mean, you saw what happened when Christian Anderson was off the floor against Kansas. They were swallowed up. Nearly won that game, but still the offense was non-existent. They're a JT Toppin foul trouble away from being in serious trouble in the tournament. Gosh, I'm blanking on other big man's name. Really big dude. He's an inconsistent shooter, but he can finish in the paint. But it's not enough. We saw Toppin was in foul trouble against Kansas. The offense died. Again, I'm with you with UCF. I think UCF might be the most underrated team in the country in terms of media and coverage on them. And I think that I have gap here again, but I think that the gap's a little bit smaller. Riley Kugel, Folks. Again, I keep blanking on. I always blank on this guy's name. I want to call him Jop because because of the Arizona State dude, but he is just a dog. Oh, it's Bowl. It's Bowl. John Bowl. John
Yes.
Bowl down low. He is a threat as well. He can finish around the rim, rebound the ball, play. He's a great shot blocking presence, obviously. Then I have TCU, and I think TCU is the weirdest team in the country. They have a loss against New Orleans. They lost to Utah, but they have wins over Iowa State. I forget who else they beat. They beat they beat a top team in the Big Ten. I'm pretty sure. Or maybe, man, I can't remember who
They beat they came close to being Michigan.
Yeah, they're all over the place, but I think they're a team that I would look at in March and be like, if they're one of the last four in, I would consider picking them against whoever they're playing next. If they're either going to win that game, they're either going to lose that last four in game, or they're going to go to the Elite Eight. There's no in between with this team. And then at my 8th spot, this is a familiar team that I like to put on the show. It's West Virginia.
I thought about them
because and here's the thing with West Virginia. I love the system that they have in place. They don't do anything that they can't. Now they have a couple weird losses there. They are not a great offensive team. They're solely reliant on Honor Huff and Eagle staff. One of those guys pretty much has to get going at all times. But I don't think that West Virginia is a tournament team at all, and so I think that's kind of where it cuts off. I think Oklahoma State actually is a better fit for the NCAA tournament
Hmm.
but dear God Almighty, those guys play some dumb basketball. Like, I mean, they
Fundamentals, man, or
it,
sometimes.
yeah, it's like, and I feel so bad for Steve Lutz because he's a great head coach, but those guys just play some of the worst basketball through certain stretches, and they have some of the best players in this in the whole conference. So for me, I think I trust West Virginia more to get a win in the Big 12 tournament than I do Oklahoma State. I don't expect to see either of those teams in the March Madness bracket. And then it's my top eight, but I think those top seven teams or top 6.5, depending on what TCU you get. I think that all of them are legit threats to not only win a tournament game, but maybe make a deep run to the second weekend.
It's interesting. We have our similarities and we have our differences. I think we really agree at the top. Like the dynamic is the same.
Yeah.
Okay, like we have our two clear favorites, and I totally agree with you that there are two gaps in there at that from 2 to 3, and then 3 to 5, maybe even 6 is kind of clustered, and then another little drop off after that. So that's the dynamic that we're looking at. How many teams do you think the Big 12 gets in?
I think they get in 7.
I was
Um,
gonna say 6 or 7.
and I think there is potential for an eighth team to get in with a run in the cup because there's just going
Yeah,
to be so many quad one opportunities going down the stretch for these teams. A West Virginia, if they can pick up a couple more big wins, an Oklahoma State, they might enter into the Big 12 conference tournament with a losing record, but they're able to squeak out a win against a Kansas, and then maybe they beat an Iowa State, and all of a sudden they have 19, 20 wins with or I guess if they'd have like 22 wins. I think they're 16-9 right now, 16-8 right now. All of a sudden they'd have 21, 22 wins, and you're sitting there and you're having a conversation of putting them in against a team like Missouri. And I think you'd look at Oklahoma State's resume and you'd say that it's a little bit better. So I think that an 8 there is a potential for 8. I think that 8 is kind of where it caps off. I'd be very shocked if they had 9 in.
well, these kinds of conferences, like you saw with the SEC last year, you're seeing with the Big 12 this year. Like it's yes, it's a gauntlet to play in, but there's so many opportunities to beef your resume up, and you saw it with the SEC multiple times last year. You compare them with the team from the ACC,
Yeah.
or last year the Big Ten. You're going to put the SEC team in. The Big 12 has that advantage over everybody this year. You put Missouri's the perfect comparison because you put a team like Oklahoma State up against them, or even West Virginia up against them. I'm taking the Big 12 team because I there's things with Missouri that I like, but their schedule is not nearly what any of these teams have had to face this year.
And I want to point this out too, uh, just to kind of show the strength of the Big 12 a little bit more. UCF went on the road to Texas A&M and beat Texas A&M, who sits in a top 4 spot in the SEC right now.
Yeah,
So that just kind of goes and shows the depth of and that was a UCF. And I know that Texas A&M's improved a lot since the beginning of the year. A whole new team, whole new system, but they still went on the road and against an SEC school and beat them handily too. It was by double digits, I believe. And I think that when you look at the Big 12 as a whole, I think a lot of it's just age. Like it's age combined with star freshmen, and that's what
yeah.
I think really is the perfect mix for these teams. So.
You got a lot of guys come back to Houston. You've got an older team with Iowa State, and then you have these freshman phenoms like Darren Peterson and like your AJ DeBonces. It's
Oh, yeah, my bad. I don't even think we mentioned BYU, but
yeah. Like I just think BYU has their limitations. Like there's a
I,
reason why they're 22 right now.
I would put BYU ahead. Okay, I would put BYU ahead of TCU. And if I was taking them straight up, I would put BYU ahead of TCU and West Virginia. And I'd say that the Big 12 gets 7 in for sure, 8 and 8 in maybe. I think 8 actually is the number they get in. 8 maybe
Yeah.
9. That's where I'm. I can't believe I forgot about BYU. Even had them on my list when I sent the one I sent you last night. But
Hey,
yeah,
it happens. Look, it's Thursday for a reason. We're
They're
fr-
they're they're
pushing through it.
struggling. They're on the struggle bus right now, but yeah, I think BYU overall. I mean, they have some good wins. They have better wins than anybody, and they have better wins than West Virginia at least.
That's
So
fair, and I think that they're a good team. They're stylistically they're not my kind of team because I think that they're
yeah,
a lot of free throws. I think that they're a finesse team. Like I just
yeah, they're clunky. They have
yeah.
one guy that they know needs to get his touches, but then they have two other guys that are only good if they have a certain amount of touches. So and they're a little bit undersized down low. So they're a weird looking team.
There's a lot of forcing it going on. I feel like when I like there's not a lot natural that unfolds. I'm watching BYU. I think there's just a lot of forcing it. So
Yeah,
that's that's where my concerns lie with them. But with that said, we've got a busy weekend this weekend. A
as
lot
usual.
of lot of ranked unranked. These weekends are only getting better. They're only going to keep getting
I
better.
don't I don't know if you saw it. I think it's either next weekend or the weekend of the 24th, but we have Michigan. We have Michigan versus Arizona, I believe, and Duke versus it's one whoever it was one versus three and two versus four. I don't know, but it's like an insane weekend and a couple weekends too.
I don't know. Michigan was playing Arizona this year.
They're playing in some weird thing. I
The,
forget what
the,
it is.
the Big 12, Big 10 swap or whatever the fuck.
It's called like something Legends of something classic or something like weird like that. I can't remember. I'd have to look it up, but I saw it on the schedule coming up. So and maybe it's not Michigan. It could be. Man, I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea. Oh, I have no idea. Maybe it's Arizona and UConn or somebody like that. I have no idea. But we'll
Actually,
carry.
that might be right.
We'll
I think
carry.
that's right. But
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
wow. That's so right. I totally forgot that weekend was happening this year.
Yeah, it's I don't know why, but I just saw top five was playing each other. So yeah,
Wow.
one's a
Well,
conference. It's one's a conference matchup and one's an out of conference matchup. That's all I know.
think about it. That weekend's probably going to be the same weekend as the gold medal match for hockey. So like I'm going to be locked in to say the
Yeah,
very.
same.
So I'll be locked in this Saturday too because my Blue Devils are hosting Clemson. Um, and look, I'm still like I know that we've got a couple wins since the Pitt game or no, correct me, just one. We got the bounce back against Pitt on Tuesday, but man, I'm still feeling that North Carolina loss. I was very angry. Shout out Bar W. I was at Bar W in Dallas during that game, and I had to go for a walk to just walk off the emotion because I was fuming. I probably would have broken shit if I were home because of the choke lead and then the game winner. I was pissed. But Duke has the opportunity this Saturday, ranked matchup, playing another one of the best teams in the ACC. And Clemson. Clemson's a good, consistent basketball team. They're not anything great, but they're a good, fundamentally sound basketball team. Right? They don't really they don't really make mistakes. So Duke is going half play buttoned up, and Clemson has a knack for letting the game come to them. They're not this really fast tempo team. They're not this fast paced team. They let the game come to them. And I think that it's imperative to make Duke play their game on Saturday. Will they be able to do that effectively? I don't really know at Cameron Indoor, but I do know that they've got to get Nick Davidson going. They got to get Jake Wallen going. You know, that's getting those guys scoring is going to be huge to have Clemson go back and forth with Duke. Ultimately, I like Cam Boozer and the boys to pull off at home. I think that Duke is just going to control the flow of this game. I think they're going to jump to an early lead, and Clemson will be playing catch up. I think the plot of this game look a lot like the Carolina game, but Duke will just close it out. I think they win 77-71.
Yeah, I got the pleasure of watching Clemson play live earlier in Tuscaloosa this year. And Alabama jumped out to a 20-point lead, hitting every shot, and I thought Clemson was just going to give up. And Clemson actually battled back from down, I think, 23 to take a lead. Late in the second half. Ultimately, didn't get the job done, but Clemson is a team, like you said, that will just they'll just slowly pick at you and mess with you and just get under your skin. Obviously, Godfrey down low, he was at Clemson, went to Georgia, came back to Clemson. He's very familiar with this system. And for Duke, I mean, you can call it a bounce back if you want, but they were not awake in that first half like I thought they would be against Pitt. Pitt is an awful team.
No,
I mean, and Pitt is they are a god awful team. They are a terrible basketball program right now. But sorry, Pittsburgh. I didn't mean to just go on a rampage against you. I hope I didn't lose any of our Pitt fans if we have any. But
it is shit this year.
yeah, sorry, Pitt, but you're probably feeling the same way I am right now. But yeah, Pitt. Besides the point. Sorry, Pitt. I won't hate on you anymore. You'll be never be mentioned on this show again until you fire Jeff Capel and get back to relevancy. But Duke, yeah, I think they're too much. And I think that Carolina game's like a wake up call almost because they got up to that big lead and they're like, okay, we're just better than them. They're just gonna roll over. We have too much talent. We're hitting our shots. Like we're the bad boys of the ACC. We're number one, clear best team, and obviously we saw it happen. But you got to lose sometimes, and you got to lose sometimes to get your mojo back in a way and get back to how you started the year and why you were ranked so high to begin with. Um, and so Duke, for me, I don't see them losing against Clemson. I think that Duke is just better at doing what Clemson does, if that makes sense. Duke and Clemson, they're gonna want to play a similar form of fashion, and Duke is just better at it and has better players and is bigger and has more talent. But Clemson does have the experience factor on Duke, which I worry about moving forward with Duke in the tournament. The experience factor is always a concern, and I think Clemson's able to kind of make it close. But I think that this one's going to be a gritty game up until the end, and I think Duke's going to pull it out 71-60.
You got double-digit win for the Blue Devils.
I think that Duke's just going to break them down. Ultimately, I don't know. I don't think Clemson has enough shot making to hang in there.
That's understandable. I could very well see Duke burying them down the stretch.
Yeah.
But I'm happy you've got my Blue Devils pulling that thing off.
Count your blessings. Count your blessings till the March Madness show because I'm Duke's an early out for me.
I know. I go back and forth on them right now. I think that
there's not actually,
but I think that there's also
Duke will make
round of 32.
Duke will make a run. They'll be fine.
Hey, it all depends. It all depends on the region. That's like the mantra of the show. It all depends on the region.
Yep.
Now we're going to Ames, Iowa, for a high octane Big 12 matchup between the Cyclones and Kansas. Now, Kansas has been one of the hottest teams in college basketball recently. You just saw them have that massive win over Arizona on Monday night, handing them their first loss, and they just went toe for toe with them the entire game. But I think that what's going to help Iowa State here is having this thing take place at the Hilton Center, having it take place in Ames. I think that they're going to have the crowd control. I think that they're going to be able to control the tempo and the flow of this game because of that. I think that both Toure and Monkilovic, I hope I said that right.
Momcilovic.
Momcilovic. I always European names, I botch them like routinely every time, but I think that you get those guys going. Of course, you can question Kansas's consistency sometimes. I almost said Ohio State. Iowa State is a great offensive team, but Kansas looks like one of those old vintage Kansas teams. Very physical, hit you down low. But I think that Iowa State outpaces them here, and I think they win this thing. Close game, but a riveting game, 82-78.
Yeah, so for me, once again, is Darren Peterson going to play? Is he not going to play? Always a big factor. I'm going to go with the assumption that he is going to play. I think that's how TJ Otzelberger would like for me to assume. So I'll say that this about Iowa State. I think that they have maybe one of the most underrated home court advantages in all of college basketball, not only in the Big 12 and the NCAA and all of college basketball, but when they play in the Big 12 tournament, their fan bases they travel extremely well. I think that like you mentioned, Torre, Momcilovic. I think they get going. I think for me, the big thing, the big guy is, and I mentioned him earlier in the show, is Josh Jefferson, because he's able to compete down low while also spreading the floor a little bit. And I think if he's able to get going from outside, it's going to be a hard night for Kansas to be able to guard this Iowa State offense. He kind of opens up the floor for everything. They're coming off that loss against TCU. They made a lot of uncharacteristic mistakes. I think they get back to it. Obviously, I love Badunga, Melvin Council, Tiller's coming along, Trey White's coming along for Kansas, and that's why you're kind of seeing them click a little bit. Um, Ultimately, I think that Iowa State's going to throw a couple punches, and I think Kansas State's going to counter, but Iowa State's going to win in a close one, and their defense is going to be what gets the job done. I'm going to say Iowa State wins this game 76 to 60. I want to say 65, but I'll give Kansas a little bit more. I don't want to go double digits. I'll go 78, 76 to 68.
Okay, nice little 8-point win. That's solid.
I don't want to.
That's solid.
I don't want to give Iowa State double digits because I don't. I don't want to predict Kansas to lose by double digits, but I think that it's around that number.
That's understandable. I just think that the matchup, especially in Ames, very much favors Iowa State. This one, I'm curious to see where you go with this one here. Florida and Kentucky, two of the hottest teams, and not only the SEC but college basketball right now, especially Florida. Florida's looking like a real quad one team. They figure their front court offense out. Their flow has been great. I mean, they've got Hall and Condon, all of them cooking right now. Chinyelu has been great rebounding the ball. He had 20 the other night. And so
Yes.
I love what Florida's cooking right now. Kentucky finding their way. I mean, it's been, if you want to talk any team, any program that's been an absolute clusterfuck this year, up and down, it's been Kentucky. But in the midst of all the chaos, all of the Mark Pope slander that goes on up in Lexington, they're still surviving. And they're still winning. They've had some phenomenal wins this year. Tennessee twice, Arkansas. This is a very capable team, and I think they're capable of winning this game. However, I think that Florida's a little less one-dimensional than Kentucky. I think sometimes Kentucky can be reliant on OA, and Florida's just deeper and can hit you with more guys. So I like Florida to win this thing 85 to 79.
Yeah, I think Kentucky is currently the most overrated team in the nation. I know they have some big wins. I know they've hit some big shots, but I'm still not going to buy into them. I think that overall they're pretty soft, and I think Florida's going to go out, interrupt, and expose them. I think Chinyelu he is going to win Defensive Player of the Year in the SEC.
Yeah.
He is the one. Kentucky struggles to get to the Kentucky already struggles to finish at the rim outside of Owe and rebound the ball, and Florida is going to expose that. Now, since Florida got that little poke in the ass from Auburn at home, where Auburn just out physicaled them, they have been playing with a different energy, a different mentality, and Boogie Fland has somehow come along. I didn't think he'd ever wake up. He's still not shooting the ball well. Lee is not shooting the ball great, but I think he's a better shooter than his numbers say. You still can't go under the screen on him because he'll make you pay. But I think that overall, Florida walks into Rupp, and they're going to get a double-digit victory. And I don't know if they might run Kentucky off the floor. Kentucky, not recently, but throughout the year, has been prone to slow starts. And just like Florida did to Georgia, I expect Florida to jump on them early. They hit a couple shots, yeah, Rupp's not as daunting as it used to be. So I'm going to say Florida wins this game 82 to 64.
Damn, ass kicking. But I can, with the way that Florida's been playing, and the fact that Kentucky might get exposed, I can totally see that unfold.
Florida is maybe the best rebounding team I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, they win every contest.
Yeah, like
it's nuts, and those are the fundamentals that I think can bring the team to a Final Four.
And Kentucky's weakness is their interior. So it doesn't seem like a great matchup for Kentucky for me. But I can't wait for Kentucky to win by double digits on Saturday, and I have to eat my words.
Could you imagine?
Happened before.
Granger, I was gonna say I've had to eat my words bad before. I mean, first first game of the college football season last year. Alabama and Florida State, I need my words, pretty bad, and watch my team suffer a freaking loss in week 1. So it's a, it happens sometimes. All right, we're gonna end it off with Arizona and Texas Tech, and I have to say, in this scenario, I feel bad for Texas Tech. You're gonna get an angry Arizona team coming off of their first loss of the season. They're going back home. I'll be honest with you here. I think that they're going to kick Texas Tech's ass. Now, the key to victory for the Red Raiders here is slowing down the tempo of this game and playing a good defensive game, winning your rebounds, getting points wherever you can, winning all the details, not turning the ball over. But nonetheless, I still think that Arizona is going to outpace Texas Tech. I think that they're going to be good with getting space and getting good shots and just playing a faster game of basketball than Texas Tech. I think that Burries is going to get going. I think that he'll be a major component on Saturday as well. I think that Arizona is going to win this thing in a blowout. I'm going to go 86-72.
I like it. I completely agree with what you're saying. I think one of the strengths of Texas Tech, I think, is that they're kind of able to adapt to pace. Obviously, they want to control it, but they're not always in control of it. And I think that they're able to kind of adapt. They can play in the half court a lot of times. They can play in the up and down the court. Now they don't really want to do that, but they can if they're hitting their shots. I think that Texas Tech's in a bad spot here. Like you mentioned, Arizona angry off that loss. First loss of the year, gonna have to regroup a little bit. I think Texas Tech keeps this game close in the first half. I think Toppin is able to kind of compete down low. But it seems like every time that I predict Texas Tech to be competitive, they burn me. So I think that I think that Arizona is just like I mentioned earlier about the Big 12 itself, depth of old players and star freshmen, and nobody represents that better than Arizona. And for that reason, I'm going to take Arizona to win this thing 88-80. I think that Texas Tech might make a little close run at the end or whatnot, but I think this game's over by the 5-minute mark.
Yeah, kind of like what was it the other day? Vanderbilt with Oklahoma, like made it look closer at the end, but in all reality, it was an ass kicking.
And Arizona also likes to kind of, when they get up, they like to kind of blitz you a little bit, and then when they get up, they start running some clock, playing in the half court a little bit more, slowing the tempo down, and I don't think that's very beneficial for Arizona. And a lot of times it can lead to a couple bad stretches, and I think that Texas Tech, too good of a team to have a couple minutes scoring drought again. So I think that Texas Tech makes it respectable, but since I said that, I guarantee you they will lose this game 94-58.
Can you imagine if it's that much of a blowout?
The only other times that Texas Tech, I was like, oh, they might beat Purdue. Scored fucking 19 points in the first half. So
that was pathetic.
So they didn't score. They didn't score a point for I think it was 11 minutes. So yeah,
that was an awful draw. I remember that game. That was absolutely pathetic.
Couldn't throw a rock in the ocean.
Now there's one comment that I'm going to address here before we go. It's from a loyal follower of ours, so I'm trying to get it to pop up on the screen. DJ Get Buckets. He's a loyal follower. He's been watching the show this whole time. He says, I feel like Kentucky has a better chance of making a further run in March than Arkansas just because he doesn't know if Arkansas will show up defensively and can't tell as of right now if Kentucky is better. Now, I want to say that I just trust Arkansas's coaching more in March. I mean, great coaches win. I just trust a Calipari coach team more than a Mark coach team. I think I think Arkansas is tougher than Kentucky. Can they win some defensive battles? Yeah, but I think that calling Kentucky soft was accurate, and I just think that Arkansas is going to be mentally more ready to go in March, and I think they have the potential to get deeper run than Kentucky.
DJ Get Buckets, you're confusing me here because you got the Arkansas profile photo, and are you a DJ Wagner fan? He played at Kentucky too. But no, I understand what you're saying because this Arkansas team is very fishy when it comes to the defensive side of the ball. Ultimately, I think this Arkansas team has more playmakers than Kentucky does. I think, I mean, Acuff, between Acuff, Thomas, Brazil, you do have Nick Pringle, which is a huge concern for me as an Alabama fan. Um, but I think Arkansas's tournament success as well in in recent history. Like, I mean, even last year, I think that this Arkansas team is miles better than that Arkansas team, and that Arkansas team still went to the Sweet 16, nearly beat Texas Tech as well. So I think that I don't think you have much to be worried about. I think this Arkansas team is one of those teams that might make a surprise run to the Final Four. They're up there for me. I think this is a very good team, and I think they're going to show you on Saturday when they get their revenge on Auburn. So.
Yeah, I think they absolutely get the revenge in Auburn. I think that writing is on the wall.
But I completely understand what he's saying about the defensive side of the ball for Arkansas. It's always a struggle to get these freshmen to play, but ultimately, Arkansas is one of the more talented and I think hybrid teams in a way where they're able to do a variety of things to get stops and get buckets. So yeah, I wouldn't be too worried about Arkansas. I think Arkansas is going to make a run in the SEC tournament. So yeah.
It doesn't matter how you play right now. Don't forget that at this time of year, last year, Arkansas was a bubble team at best. They were on pace to miss the tournament at this point last year. They go to the Sweet 16. When you have a coach like Cal, all you have to do is get into the big dance and then hold on to your hat. I mean, yeah.
I do think it's funny though how no as long as Cal is at Arkansas, it doesn't matter how good or how bad each team is. Each fan base will be comparing themselves to each other.
Oh yeah, it's always
that's a messy breakup right there.
Yeah, Kentucky Arkansas is going to continue. I mean, you can feel it every time they play too. Like you can still the animosity is never going to wear off. It's almost like
it's mostly
Alabama
one-sided.
LSU thing.
It's mostly one-sided. There's a lot of animosity in Big Blue Nation and not a lot of appreciation, which I think is a little bit absurd.
I mean, he brought you a national championship. He brought you a 38-0 season. I know they didn't go all the way, but that was one of the most successful teams of all time. It brought you multiple first-round NBA players. I mean,
multiple SEC championships.
Multiple SEC championships. Like, I think that people forget because we've had a couple of years of the SEC being pretty deep. This year hasn't been a good example, but we've had a couple of years where you've had Nate Oates and Bruce Pearl and Rick Barnes and all different great coaches in this conference. People forget that the SEC was shit in the 2010s, and it was really Kentucky. They were what the ACC was last year. It was Kentucky and a few other maybe contenders.
I'll say this. I'll end it with just. I know I can kind of get it because of the Oakland loss, the St. Peter's loss. Kentucky kind of flared out a little bit towards the end of his tenure. But overall, I mean, he won more games there than pretty much any other SEC coach has won during this time period at their school. So
appreciate what you have. It's like it's almost like Clemson fans getting angry at Dabo. Like, I don't know, he brought you 2 natties. Like, yeah, has it been as great recently? No, but like the guy brought you 2 natties. So how much you appreciate it a little bit? Who else out there can say that they brought you 2 natties? How many natties did James Franklin bring to Penn State? I rest my case.
I'm with you.
But that's our show today. We're gonna wrap it up here. Thanks for coming on, Luke, and thank you for everyone. DJ Get Buckets, all of the loyal followers here for tuning in. We had a good following for the show, so don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and we'll be back next Thursday as well for the close call. But thank you all for watching, and have a great day.
Keep dropping comments.